from somebody who says they're a bit of a tearjerker, involuntarily so. When I need to speak up about more emotional or anxiety-related topics with superiors, or if I'm sort of angry about something, or if I just need to stand up for myself, I get emotional and eyes well up, which is not at all sadness-related, just an emotional, silly response. Any tricks about having more self-control of one's body?
Well, I think it is back to the thing we were talking about the aeroplane crashes and stuff. It's practice, practice, practice. This is what actors do for a living, isn't it? They learn how to access certain emotions and they manage to do it. And it is about, if you look at your diary, your schedule of events that are coming up, you know the ones that are going to be, in the main, the likely triggers. And we spent a lot of time doing this, didn't we, Dave? Working out what were the things where you thought you were going to lose more control, you weren't going to be as in control as you would like to be. And so you plan ahead for those. So you do them in a way that isn't going to be as difficult. And with the ones this person's talking about, I would be practicing. I'd be standing in front of a mirror or doing a video. I mean, in Irish time, we didn't have video, obviously. I mean, we didn't really have printing and stuff. But, I'd be there in front of a mirror. Actually, I'd do it when I was driving home. I would say things over and over again till I could say them in a way that I felt was good. And in fact, I was thinking about, because I went through these questions before, how have I dealt with these situations in the past? Well, I tell you what, there's a particular incident that I always bring myself back to. Years ago, I was really upset because I split up with this horrible boyfriend, all the usual sort of stuff. I was a student and I thought, right, I'll go and see my school friend, Simon. So he was in Birmingham. So I thought, right, I'll do that. So I got out my student rail card. I mean, going across the country, nightmare. So I went across, took ages, got there. He wasn't there. I persuaded the hall porter to let me into his room. I don't know how I managed to do that. Great negotiation skills. Anyway, I got into the room and there on his desk was a letter from our other school friend who lived in Manchester saying, really looking forward to seeing you the weekend. Gone to Manchester. So I was really, really upset. Anyway, I thought, right, I'll just have to go back home. I went back to the station, got on the train, and then experienced the worst train journey I've had for years. We got delayed, shunted to all sorts of places, detours, everything. And in the end, I ended up with 5 other people past midnight at Derby Station. It's like 6 of us sat in the waiting room at Derby Station. It's freezing cold, it's raining, and we all sat there and we started talking. And we all started relating our situations. And I think I probably went first. And then the next person went and the next one. And each story was worse than the last one. By the end of it, we were in stitches. I don't know how it happened, but we were just laughing our socks off because we'd all had these ridiculous, dreadful days. And here we were with no hope of getting home that day or anything, sharing out, 5 loaves and fishes and all that sort of thing. And it's hilarious. And whenever I think back to that situation, those people, I'll never see, I don't know who they were, but we developed this little camaraderie and we look back and laughed. And now even I think about Christmas, I still laugh about that event, which is over 40 years ago, confession time for my age. But that's the thing, is to think to situations where you felt how you'd like to feel now. And that is what memories are there for and what films are there for. And we watched Die Hard last night. It's a great film. It's Rob, of course, knows it off by heart. But that's what those things are there to do. They move your emotions, and you can do that yourself by thinking about them. And the more you do that, the more adept you become at it. So you need to get yourself into the right emotion, which we talked about before, didn't we? Identify what's the right emotion. Well, what made me, how did I get into that last time I was in it? When's the time when I've been most in that emotion? Think back to that time, that person, that present, that film, that book, whatever it is. And smile. Smiling is usually a good thing to do. And get around, walk around, move yourself, because when you're really tense, that's when the kind of negative emotions tend to start as well. I know all this sounds really, a bit woo-woo, but actually it makes complete sense. If you're breathing properly, you cannot be angry. If you're angry, you're not breathing properly.
get into an emotional state.
Yeah.
Do an emotion. Don't
Yeah.
have an emotion happen to you.
Yeah, exactly. We should just summarize for this person the tears thing. So let's just summarize.
Okay.
There are people for whom I know this is tricky. So key thing is identify the right emotions, practice, even perhaps role play with people. And it may be, worst case, you actually say to the person, look, this sometimes happens. Please just ignore it if it happens, and I will just carry on.
That's interesting. Just get it out there rather than have it misinterpreted.
Yeah.
I bet you when you take the pressure off yourself like that,
yeah, it's not as bad.
It's less likely to happen.
Yeah. I
tell you, so I struggled that a little bit when I was at school.
Did you?
Like, I didn't get into trouble much, but I remember this is early at school. It's not like a bit later on, but if you get told off, or if I get asked a question by a teacher, and particularly if a teacher showed some form of like concern for the behavior, I'd get upset about that. It was weird.
Yeah.
I didn't actively do anything. I think maybe I just did the boy thing and just compartmentalize it and just say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Well, another thing to do is actually to voice your emotion. Say, I feel really upset, or I'm really worried, I'm anxious, I'm frightened. Actually voicing it makes quite a difference too.
Nancy, there's a subtle thing you said there that maybe people would miss, but you said, I feel really upset. No, I am.
Thanks for picking that up, Dave. Yeah, absolutely. Because once you said I am, you're taking that as like a core thing. Say, I feel upset or I feel concerned. But once you say I am, you've taken that on as your identity.
You're identifying with it too much.
Yeah. So don't do that.
That's when you lose control, isn't it? Yeah. That's where you cede the control to the thing.
In fact, let's just have a quick look at that, Dave. Well spotted there. It's good you were awake some of the sessions we had then, weren't you? If you think about when you're talking about situations, the way you talk about them can have a really big impact on how you feel. So if someone comes to me and says, I'm really upset, I'm devastated, what I'm going to try to do is get them right out of that and get them right down to, I'll say, okay, Dave, tell me what happened. Because then I'm not saying, you're really upset, this is awful, and so I'm saying, tell me what happened. So you can then just focus on the facts. And I'll then say, well, when did that happen? What happened? Okay, and I'll never say, how did it make you feel? Yeah, and I might say, okay, so how do you feel? Well, let's look at the reasons for that. So I'm getting it out of that area because it's easier for people to deal with it if you do that.
Not just wallow in it.
Yeah, I mean, there are times for wallowing. That's fine. I call that watching a film. But yeah, no, of course, I mean, emotions are there, and it's fine to be crying in the appropriate situation or laughing your socks off or whatever, but there are times when you don't want to be doing that.